In sports, to be successful, it's not necessarily how much interest you have. There are geographical and genetic conditions as well.
I ran away from home. I locked myself in a train and I traveled to Bombay. I defeated all the gamers there. Then I called my dad that, hey, I'm in a five-star hotel, a company is sponsoring my flight. So my dad is like, okay, get the shampoos and all the things.
Welcome to another edition of Startup Table with AJ. AJ being me, Archana Jahagirdar, and we're in the Rukam Capital office. And we've got a really interesting episode today. We're going to be talking about sports and all things sports tech in the startup domain. Sports has not really been our strength traditionally in India, but of course, as the country changes, our demographic changes, clearly sports is the hot topic in the startup ecosystem. So I'm going to request everyone on the table to introduce yourself briefly, introduce your startups, and then we'll get into the conversation. I'll request you to start.
Hi guys, I am Prateek. I am founder of Wiselife. We are India's #1 yoga brand. We are passionate about yoga. We are bringing superior quality, aesthetically designed, and best of the market yoga mats, yoga accessories, and yoga apparel to the market.
Welcome.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Puru. I'm co-founder of Push Sports. We are a multi-vertical sports brand. We run coaching academies. We build and manage sports infrastructure. We conduct leagues for kids to have them play consistently. So we are on a mission to build India's most trusted grassroots sports brand. One kid and one pitch at a time.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Shantanu Basu. I have represented India highest number of times in gaming around the globe. I'm the only Indian gamer to get third in a world championship. So I run a company called Let's Game Now, and we are building a AI sports tech which lets the viewers play along with any sports videos going on.
Wow. Welcome.
Hi everyone, my name is Reba. I've co-founded a sports and athleisure wear brand called Off Limits. And what we're really aiming to do is bring high quality sports and athleisure footwear to the Indian mass market at an affordable price point so that everybody can be comfortable and go about crushing their limits every single day.
Hey, I'm Yogesh. I'm co-founder of Zplys, a complete sports digital ecosystem where everyone, whoever plays whatever sports, they can have their brand visibility and the career. Our aim is to get the whole sports community, be it sports player, coaches, academies, training centers under one roof, and give them the value they deserve.
Hey guys, hi. I'm Vikram Gunjal. I'm the co-founder at UpUrFit. UpUrFit is all about vanquishing pain and discomfort if you're a sports and fitness enthusiast. So we have pain relief, recovery, and personal care products that you can use during, before, or after any fitness occasion, any sports occasion. We are actually the pain relief and recovery partners for a few sports teams like Mumbai City Football Club. And our aim is to make your life that much more easier so that you can unstop yourselves if you're a sports person or a fitness enthusiast.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Rohan Khanduja. I'm the founder at Tripole Gears. We basically want to build a one-stop shop for everything outdoors, running, hiking, trekking, and so on. We manufacture it ourselves and we base our Delhi.
So welcome everyone. I want to sort of, talk a little bit of what I said in the intro. India was really not a sports crazy mad nation. We were a cricket mad country. But does everyone on this table think that now there is interest across all sports, not just cricket? Anybody can start and then we can, go around the table. You want to start, Prateek?
Sure. I think I really resonate with the opinion that India was not a sports first country, and we have been seeing in the past decades that our country is not very we have not won a lot of Olympics, we have not won a lot in sports, but I think it's gradually going upwards. There is a lot of infrastructure which is coming in place. There is a lot of awareness which is coming in place. And I think sports industry primarily is divided into two parts. One is your core sports and other is wellness. So there is a huge uptick in the wellness space. But I think sports still has to follow because I think there's a lack of infrastructure which has to be developed.
What does everyone feel on this table? Yes, please, Shan.
Yeah, so I am from Calcutta, so My dad was a
Football crazy.
Yeah. My dad
Yes.
went to see Pele. My mom used to play.
Went to see Pele?
Yeah,
Wow.
Pele came to play in Calcutta
Yes.
once. So, and we are mad about football.
And you were talking about your mother? You said?
Yeah, my mom used to play volleyball.
Wow.
So one time she smashed so hard, my dad fell down. That's how we fell in love.
Secret to their happy marriage.
Yes. So, means I have seen that we are mad about sports from childhood only. Like in
But you've chosen a different kind of sport in that sense. I mean,
yeah, actually.
would you call gaming sports, or is that a much more passive?
I used to play like a lot of sports when I was in school, but then I saw that I'm better in the video games.
Okay.
So, yeah. So traditionally, we are not a sporting nation. It was always education first. You have to make your career out of it. But like you rightly mentioned, it was cricket first because people saw an avenue in cricket. After 1993 World Cup, there was a huge upswing in cricket fortunes, and that's how the cricket became, the popular choice of everyone. But now the same thing has started happening in other sports. Like you need icons for any sport to grow. So cricket, we have been icons. Even before Sunil Gavaskar, they were Vinu Mankad, Ajit Wadekar, then Tendulkar, Virat Kohli. It's an endless list. But now with other sports,
What comes first? The icon comes first, or the sports comes first?
I think to make the game popular and icon.
But how does the icon emerge if it's not a popular sport then?
No, like to popularize it, you need money also in the game, right? So unless and until there's someone to put money, so
No, so I think
That's-
one
that's what's
icon can
happening
be
in-
an anomaly as well. So, anomaly
Exactly.
comes up and then, something comes out. So one person is easy, like it's a big country, so one person can come up, right?
Yeah.
But to build a team, you need that motivation from an icon.
Oh, that's bench strength. I mean, one person, then what about after that,
like I'll give you an example of tennis. When I was a kid, so tennis was huge in India. Like Leander Pace he tapped into when he was 63 at one point of time, but there was no one to fall back. There was no bench strength after Leander Pace or Sania Mirza. So tennis has really fallen off the radar, especially grassroots still going, but structured pathways are missing. So in the other sport, it's still coming up. Badminton is like, thanks to Gopi Chand, we have a factory of good badminton players. Hockey is also doing well. So all the other sports, they are slowly picking up. There's still a long way to go. Yeah.
But I think you don't necessarily need to have icons from India per se, because now sports is very much global, right? Think about it this way. Unfortunately, in football, apart from Ayam Vijayan and Sunil Chhetri, there are names that really come to your mind. But I would say that, yeah, Bachchan Bhutia as well, completely my fault. But again, there are very, handful of names, right? So what I'm trying to say is there is also a lot of global inspiration in terms of what people are taking up. And I think that's something that, can be amplified with the network
issue
effect.
with global icons is that, I mean, I may be the biggest fan of Messi or Ronaldo, or, I mean, there's so many players. But then you think, oh, they have a different ecosystem, they have a lot of support. So there's still a bit of a distance, right? It doesn't motivate you, or you don't think it's possible for you, some kid, and sitting in some small town in India, will not be able to think that it's possible in India. You need, I think, local icons. I do think that.
It helps, but I
you're saying
think that the
it's not
start, I think the start can be through a global sport. So, for example, pickle and paddle, right? Again, there are no global icons even in pickle and paddle, but the fact that they can be great, both recreational as well as competitive sports, is because there is that network effect of infrastructure, capabilities coming up, other people playing, and that is how the game will build up. So, it's a chicken and egg. I think icons are necessary, but they don't necessarily need to come only first. That's
You wanted to say something for a while.
Sorry, no, I was just saying that, even from a sales point of view, now we're seeing a slight shift. So earlier it used to be mainly cricket shoes that would sell great. But now we do see a lot of traction coming into tennis, badminton, non-marking shoes, especially for pickle and paddle. But I do agree, I think the wellness side of it is picking up really, really well, where we see a lot of traction now in, say, gym wear, running shoes, and casual sneakers. I mean, that's a fashion statement, that's separate. But I think overall the industry people are moving more towards active, more like healthy lifestyles overall. That shift is definitely coming in.
Okay.
Yeah. So India, I mean, in sports, to be successful, it's not necessarily how much interest you have. There are geographical and genetic conditions as well. We did relatively well in the mind sports. So let's say chess, right? Chess, we were able to create kind of a factory. We
Yeah.
have hundreds of grandmasters. Vishwanath Anand obviously helped being on the top, being on the icon. But as we go in more demanding physical sports, we are still lacking, right? So football, for an example, right? Football versus cricket. Football is far more physically demanding. I think a lot of people are trying to get football popular in India, but we are still not, at least on a competitive stage, right?
But when it comes to physically more demanding sports, do you think it's also, parents, because you really need to start playing these sports when you're very young, and parents worry about injuries because these are injury-prone sports?
Yes, that's true. But genetically also, right? In athletics, you can't beat Africans, so it's just very difficult. Obviously, you would have to put that extra efforts to make up on that genetics.
Excellence is always that, right? That extra effort. You've got to beat your genetics.
Yeah.
And I think one more challenge is there are no competitive platform at the grassroots level. Like it's there.
Yeah.
Football is attracting a lot of sponsorship, a lot of money. But if you go at the grassroots, there's
And
still
the little leagues also, that really helps. There are a lot of little leagues in football,
Yeah.
which really helps as
so,
well.
but at the grassroots, there's still not much is happening. Like Santosh Trophy is there, but I can think of just one sport. So the sport that way, cricket is very good. Why? Because BCCI has done a lot of work in the grassroots. If the same push had come from other associations,
A lot of money as well, right, to do that work.
but they have the intent also. They have the intent also.
Both things. This goes both ways.
There's enough money in football, and tennis is also there's a lot of money.
Tennis example you gave very good, right? When I was studying, even Pete Sampras and Agassi was quite popular. And now, if I would ask kids around that age, they don't even know the tennis or the icons, right? So in my times, people used to discuss tennis
People
matches.
now have gaming icons. You wanted to say something.
Actually,
Yeah.
there's a club, football club for youngsters before my house. So the poor kids, used to come to play just for 2 eggs and 2 bananas.
Wow.
So I wrote an article on FIFA.com, and then Pepsi, they sent jerseys and footballs for every kid. So actually the grassroots reality is much different than we show what we show on like the stats and economic times. What you read is different from there. Like people are willing to come to play just for eggs and bananas. So
That's true.
But I think I think he made a point that how much money is there in the sports. I think ultimately the reason like football is so big in Europe is because look at the kind of money that is involved. I mean, there's money and prestige both. I think in India, prestige and money is still missing in most of the sports, right?
Right.
Other than gaming. I mean, how much money is there? Tell us in gaming. Should we all become gamers? Tell
I
us.
think it's also worth noting that the people who are winning Olympics in the sports in which we're winning Olympics is not something which is being discussed right now. So we're not talking boxing, we're not talking wrestling, we're not talking javelin throw, we're not.
Why is
talking
that?
about
Why do you think
those
they're not
things.
talking about those
Because
sports?
we need to, again, it comes to the money, right? So that person, when he goes fully into it, he's looking for money, right? He's looking as a profession, right? So if he doesn't see anything happening at the end of the road, then, so for example, in India, so there's a segment in Haryana, okay, who's focusing on boxing and wrestling because they know that there is a segment where they can shine. Like this is the way that they can help them, shine. Whereas in football, it's just, everyone knows everyone who's a big fan of football, but like nothing's happening after a point. So like that's the big major gap, which is
I think we watch more football than play football.
yeah.
As a country.
Even if we are playing, but there's no path to there's no one thinking I want to be a footballer. Whereas there are people in Haryana in other segments where they're thinking that I want to be a wrestler. They're thinking that I want to go to the Olympics.
And because someone must have educated them, created that awareness that from grassroots to Olympic, this is the path. Unfortunately, that path is missing in football.
Yeah, see,
in spite
everyone's
of
playing
all
football, but there's no path. So
like still,
that's kind of worth noting as well.
I still get a lot of queries from football parents to arrange a pathway to have their kid
To
playing in
Europe.
Spain.
Yeah.
It's so
I've
unfortunate.
heard a lot of kids going to Spain actually.
And I'm talking about 12 and 13-year-old. So that shows no 12-year-old cricketer who is worth his salt wants to go abroad and play. In fact, we have players. I have young kids from England, Netherlands, and they're coming here to play. And we need to create that ecosystem for football. Badminton is there in badminton. That's why we see a lot of stuff, good stuff is happening in badminton.
But is this a problem? Because think about it this way: is this the Indian mentality saying that if you play sports, you have to go to Olympics? If you play football, you have to represent, an Arsenal or a,
Yeah, of
or
course,
a
right?
or a match, or is it something which is different than, let's say, US sports, where you play sports because it is a part
Yes.
of, it is a part of your lifestyle. And I think because we are all talking about, hey, we don't play sports because we won't represent an Arsenal tomorrow. I think that's a barrier.
No, I think you make a very, very valid point. Is it so integrated in your lifestyle? So, I used to work for an American company, and when I used to go to the US and meet my colleagues, they would play ice hockey every weekend. They would watch it as well. I mean, so they also played the sport and they also watched it. And you're right. I mean, they were not playing it because they would have represented their countries or clubs. Or
And also college level sports, right?
Yeah.
They don't necessarily watch only national leagues, but
Yeah,
college leagues.
they watch everything. I mean,
Even at school level, right?
I
no,
think
that's the point. Even Little League. I mean, the Little Leagues get audience. The parents come show up to watch the Little League play. So, yeah, I think you make a very valid point. So, I think it's a good point to debate. Should it be so integrated, irrespective of the financial outcome? What is it?
I think Archana, I'll disagree with Vikram here because any sport by nature is a competitive sport, right? So just for the entire ecosystem to grow, for the icons to be there, for the infrastructure to be built, there has to be people on the top representing or winning something big. That is when the prestige and the inspiration and the aspiration to play that sport grows. So whenever I play badminton, I transform into a player, right? Because I think that I am, true. So I think that spirit.
But if I was
is
to
not-
interpret his point for a moment, I think what he's saying is you need both. It's
Yeah.
not either or.
Exactly, both.
Because everybody who plays on every weekend, I mean, so see the beauty about, the Western countries is this, that they play it seriously. They don't take it lightly, So I think on their big holidays, I think on Thanksgiving, every family has a tradition that they'll go and play, some sport after their sort of celebration. So I think the point is valid from the perspective that, of course, you need icons, and they also have icons, right? I mean, in all of the sports which only they play.
Yeah.
Baseball only they play. Ice hockey, a very small part of the world plays ice hockey, or winter sports, skiing,
American football, right?
Sorry?
American football, right?
Yeah, so I mean, this is something that only they play. But
So to that point, there's a personal example, right? So in our team, we have two people who are professional footballers. They still play for the Mumbai Football Association. They have done their sports
how old are
management.
they?
22 and 24.
Oh, but
They-
they're still young.
Yeah, but they have
Question is,
crossed
they
the
play
age.
40.
Yeah, they have crossed the age where now they will make it big at a national level. The point that I'm trying to make is that they have played professionally. They're now pursuing a career. 20 years ago, when I was playing university football, that path was not at all open to me. Maybe it was open for a cricketer. It was not at all open for a footballer. That is important for everybody to play. And it's not only, hey, I will play only if I aspire to a national position. I think that's the point I'm trying to make.
No, I agree with this, because these are not mutually exclusive, but
Absolutely.
these are actually complementary
Yes.
things.
Yeah. I mean, I think interconnected points in a sense. Yeah.
I think what Vikram is saying that sports is not yet integrated into a lifestyle, which is absolutely true. It starts integrating into a lifestyle when we have crossed 30. Suddenly we realize, we know we are missing sport.
That's where running, cycling, everything is coming in.
Unfortunately, it is not there when the kid is growing up. It should have been part of that lifestyle. So I started playing cricket at a very, very young age. I mean, probably I think I started at the age of 10. And so when some sport is not happening in my life, probably twice in a week, I feel something is missing. And I see so many players of my generation who started young and they're still into that mold. Unfortunately, that starts happening in our country to the most of us when they have crossed 30, 35. So when that age will start coming, lower,
Earlier.
probably 20, 15, 20. Then actually we would think that we have arrived as a supporting nation.
Shantanu, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, actually, I got signed by US team, US gaming team, Tempo Storm, and I played for them for 7 years, and they really took care of me. Like they would, if I had a tournament in Singapore or China, they would send me 3 months before to practice with the players and creating that mindset so that I can win trophies outside. And even the Indian media, before I was playing for India, they didn't do as many articles. After I got signed by the US team, Vogue featured me on their anniversary issue. Everyone was doing articles on me, so that's all my mindset change also.
No, I agree with you. I think we don't value it enough, therefore the media doesn't pick it up. But I want to bring in another point into this conversation. I mean, of course, there's a predominance of men on this table, but women play even fewer sports, if at all any.
That's
You know,
completely true.
I mean, in fact, women are more into wellness
Yeah.
than any sport. And definitely, I mean, I don't see many women doing this. So, is that changing? Are you guys seeing a
But
change?
we did recently very well in women's, right? Saina Nehwal, PV Sindhu, Mary Kom, in many games. I mean, tennis
No,
and
no,
badminton.
and to his point that what is an everyday sport? Who are the people? So men, of course, or boys, when I'm saying at a very young age, who starts playing as a thing to do every day or at least on the weekend. So are you people seeing a change?
See, for girls, you tend to see a lot of dance that happens at a young age. But now I think with stuff like paddle pickle coming in, there's a lot of women who are going out and playing again because it's a very recreational part. It's a very nice way to sort of get activity in, get healthier, and imbue it into your lifestyle. But for women, we're not seeing so much traction yet. You do see
I
a
have
lot of
a
dance.
hypothesis on it. I think sports have to be integrated since childhood in your daily, routines. So when I was growing up, I was a very good badminton player. I always won gold medals in my school. But when there was a time when I could have gone out to play clusters or state level, my parents were like, 10th hai, you have to study. So my parents never gave that priority to sports, number one. Secondly, my school did not have any facilities for sports. Like they had a swimming pool, they had courts and everything, but it was never ever prioritized. Apart from those 2, 3, 4 children and whose parents also have to agree to send their children to this and that. So I think that is a basic problem. And when it comes to women, there is still a very big problem of women working in India. हमारा जो women workforce है वो I don't think 10% से ज़्यादा है, which China is at 90-95%. So उनके लिए प्रायोरिटी वन इज पहले उनको एजुकेट करके नौकरियां तक तो लाओ, उनको मतलब काम तो कराओ. आई थिंक दिस इज व्हाट पेरेंट्स प्रायोरिटाइज एंड स्पोर्ट्स तो फिर बहुत आगे की बात होगी.
But even in urban households, for that matter, and I think that is where the gap is, right? Where people can possibly afford it. I think there is a gap. Now, to that point, obviously, we need a PV Sindhu, we need a Saina Nehwal. But we need, as a girl, you would need your mom to actually pursue something in a similar sport or a similar, similar direction for you to be inspired. So I believe that inspiration.
Break that cycle then. Now it is not there.
Absolutely.
Right? So how do we break it?
That's picking up. I believe, at least in middle class and urban class, as Reba mentioned, right, girls are going out trying to play at least badminton, pedal ball. Even in the residential societies, you can see women coming out and playing, and girls in schools. So I don't see, at least in a tier 2, 3 or 1 cities, there's a difference between boys and girls to at least start playing. And at one point, there are different conditions which stops girls to play. But I think that's changing versus 10 years or 20 years back.
Archana, there is another issue. Like if I'm a kid in a 8th, 10th or a 12th class, I will mostly play outside my house in the evenings, 7, 8, 9 p.m. with like 10, 20 guys and like that kind of setup. So sometimes parents do not feel comfortable sending their child, injure हो जाएंगे, मतलब तो वो सारी चीजें.
Fear of injury is maybe the number one reason, more than anything else. Because then you're like, first of all, it's expensive.
Yeah.
The child will miss school. Then if it's an important year, class 10 or class 12, then so you don't want your child to lose a year. Surprisingly, parents overseas don't seem to have that worry. I mean, they must also be getting injured, but
No, but their kids are playing in school. They have proper institutions.
But
where they can-
injury तो वहाँ पे भी तो होती
No, I
होगी.
think it needs to start from school only. School will give you
Even
that.
before school, I think.
I'm saying in school, as in the school needs to have that sporting culture, because school gives you that, the feeling of safety, security. So if school has a proper infrastructure in place and proper sporting ecosystem in place, अभी क्या होता है school में कि it's like ticking the box. You have a games period and you're just playing in an unstructured way. All 50 kids are probably playing football or they're playing cricket. But if you divide that class, the class of 50 kids into structured sport, okay, you want to play cricket, you want to play football, you want to play badminton. But then school, they do not invest in good quality specialized teachers. स्कूल में बायो का टीचर एक हफ्ते नहीं आएगा, पूरी शोर मच जाएगा. फिजिकल एजुकेशन टीचर 2 साल से नहीं है, तो मैंने 10 नहीं है.
Great.
Bio teacher or English teacher, they are accountable and answerable why there are compartments, why the result is not bad. Who's asking a sports teacher, यार 6 साल से है, why are you not able to produce champions? And it's a vicious circle because the sports teacher in school is also doing other duties, the admin duties. He is busy making, creating discipline during lunch. He is doing bus duties.
Conducting assemblies.
He is conducting assemblies. He is substituting for other teachers. You don't see that happening with other teachers. So suddenly you're actually demeaning the whole ecosystem. मेरे को अगर स्पोर्ट्स टीचर के लिए रिस्पेक्ट ही नहीं है तो मैं उसकी बात ही नहीं सुनूंगा. मैं उसकी बात नहीं सुनूंगा तो मैं गेम नहीं सीखूंगा. मैं गेम नहीं सीखूंगा तो फिर बाय द टाइम आई रियलाइज कि probably I had that love for that particular sport. My age is already gone. I'm already 15. You need to start. यहाँ पे I saw an article somewhere where a parent was asking that my kid is he's 4. Which IIT institute should I put him? यहाँ पे मतलब chance, यार कोई
That's totally believable.
तो बाकी मतलब the same thing can happen in sport also, but that revolution needs to start and everyone needs to get involved. Government needs to get involved. Schools needs to get involved. Other private enterprises need to get involved. There are steps are taking place. There's Khelo More is government initiative. They are doing very, very well. Reliance is doing some fantastic work. JSW is doing some fantastic work. But we need, we are talking about a country as vast and as huge as India. So a lot of push needs to come from everywhere. तभी आप जैसे बात कर रहे थे ना, we need to talk more about Olympic sports, javelin and all. That's why we will talk more.
Shantanu, you want to say?
Ma'am, you are absolutely right. The parents do not support the kids. If you see in Messi's case, he went to La Masia at 7 or 8 years old, or Ronaldo at 13 years old at the Portugal Academy. Sachin also was supported by his brother, and Virat Kohli's family also supported him that he cannot do good in studies, let him play only. So in my case also, in 2007, actually, I ran away from home. I locked myself in a train and I traveled to Bombay. I slept on the pavements 3 days. I defeated all the gamers there, won from there. Then an article came out in Times of India that I won. Then I called my dad that, hey, I'm in a 5-star hotel, a company is sponsoring my flight. So my dad is like, okay, get the shampoos and all the things.
Okay, guys, I want to focus this conversation a little bit into startups and sports. So, what do you think is the interest you get from potential customers? What is the reason for starting the startups you guys have started? Anybody can start. Yeah, please.
So I think a lot of conversations on injuries and pain, right? And I think you made a point, which is eventually in India, people start playing even at an amateur level after 30. So I think someone actually put it very well colloquially a few weeks ago. कि 25-30 तक लोग पैसा बनाते हैं, then उसके बाद लोग amateur tournaments में they start participating. Everybody thinks they are a Messi or a Ronaldo, but unfortunately we have lost all athletic conditioning, and that is why people hit walls in terms of pains, injuries, and that's a very personal example, which is why we really thought that was a problem that we could solve for ourselves as UpUrFit in terms of solving for pain, recovery, injury, and we believe that problem was fairly ubiquitous, which is what got us started.
Okay, right. So, I used to train at City Fort, the academy there, right?
Yeah.
And you have a lot of athletes over there who come from Haryana, Punjab, all of these places. And I mean, amazing, committed athletes, right? Like triathlon runners, Ironman winners. And I mean, I was just observing them one day, and they're training in like these PVC shoes, or they're training barefoot. And then, so we asked, why? why aren't you wearing proper footwear? And they said, the big brands are too expensive. It's a 10,000, 15,000 rupee pair of shoes. And it's just not affordable. So we train in this. Closer to race day, then we start wearing those shoes to adapt to them and all of that. So then, I said, this easily solved problem, right?
So
If
you
can
saw a
build-
gap there.
Yes, that's basically where we saw a gap. In fact, a lot of our sales still come from that belt because it's very easy to be able to provide like a nice, comfortable, cushioned, enough technology infused running shoe or a training shoe for an athlete that can spend about 1,500, 2,000 rupees on one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's not that difficult. And we have our own manufacturing, so that helps. So that is how we started. And then obviously as the sneaker culture then picked up and it became more of a fashion statement, then we pivoted a little bit into doing, different sort of designs, different colors. Because ultimately now what has happened is that the shoe that you wear is also, it's a fashion statement, right? It's a statement of self-expression. So then we also then started catering to that market. But the core of the startup was to be able to provide affordable, good quality fitness and sports shoes to athletes who need it.
Understood. You said you got your own manufacturing.
Yeah.
So did that come first or the startup idea came
The
first?
startup idea came first. So we went and tried to get it done from other people. But
How
then
did your idea come about?
So then this is obviously a very different thing from regular sports. This is outdoor, this is wellness. This is something where people, once they explore this, because there aren't many outdoors in Delhi if you're there. Although there are a lot of outdoors in Delhi, there's Delhi is supposed to be the biggest forest cover in the world, like the biggest metro city that ways. But like people don't know, right? Like no one at the table would know that. So we're not exposed to the outdoors. But once you go, once people have been, exploring, once they've been going to the mountains, once they've been, going for trekking, hiking, that is when they realize that, this is a far better lifestyle to pursue. And that is where, they come back and now they're running, they're cycling so that they're fit enough to go for their mountain expedition, because now they can't pick up a sport like so for every other sport you need a team, you need commitments, whereas things like running, cycling, everything can be done, solo. You can also go for a trek on your own. So that barrier gets away. You don't need any infrastructure. You don't need, much. So with how the industry grows, people are kind of looking at how to improve their running. It's become a big sport now. But according to me, there's still people spend way too less compared to the Western markets. But it's still growing, and those people who are into outdoors over here in Delhi are then trying to go up to the mountains and trying to explore other things and for recreation purposes.
Okay. How did your idea come about?
So, as I told earlier, I was a very sporty kid. I was always into badminton, squash, all the racket sports I used to play. And when I completed my CA, I'd become a corporate leaver. So I was working with a very big accounting firm. I was there for 5 years. I had done a lot of damage to my health. I had put on weight and etc. etc. So it came to a point when I could not procrastinate it further. So I started my wellness journey, and yoga seemed to be a very good way for wellness at my home, at a nearby gym or a yoga studio. So I started doing yoga. I felt very well. I felt really good, really confident about my body. So, and when I was looking for yoga mats, yoga equipments for myself, I found a very big gap in the market. So all the yoga mats that I bought from Amazon, Flipkart were very shitty. Some of them did not have a grip, and there was no particular brand which looked credible. And so I just took on the project myself and thought that I should give India its first yoga brand. And we are a yoga country, right? We are the yoga capital of the world. So why is it that we don't have even a single yoga brand? So I thought कि पहले इंडिया के लिए बनाते हैं, इंडिया को बेस्ट क्वालिटी प्रोडक्ट्स देते हैं, and if it goes well, we'll take it to the world.
What made you?
So I'm a cricketer turned coach, and I realize that the ecosystem is totally broken. We don't have good infra. It's either very expensive and it's very difficult to manage across cities. Consistent quality is a challenge, which is they come and go. So delivery is always a problem. So there was a gap to provide structured coaching at the grassroots. So that's how we started. Especially, I'm talking about the age group from 4 to 12. There's still enough competitive pathways, and the coaching was still better for above 13 or 14-year-olds. For 4 to 12, there was a lot of space was there. So when we started, we reached 100 kids in 6 months. And out of those 100 kids, 90 were from 4 to 7. After a year, we didn't know what we were supposed to do because parents were asking a game time. There were no academies where we can play against them. So that's how the idea of Push Junior Premier League started. So we started with 3 teams 5 years ago, and we are doing 20 teams tournament this year, which is being promoted by Puma and MG Act and all that stuff. So this is the gap which I'm talking about. The coaching part and the competitive pathway part that's still missing. And I'm talking about cricket. I'm not talking about other sports. Just imagine how big the gap is there in other sports. So the idea is to have kids, make them, make their coaching fun, make them fall in love, and make them stay there. So that's what we're trying to build.
Yeah, so few minutes back, right, we were talking about going into IIT for 4-year kids. If you take the sports, right, sports generally, from a layman perspective, is not as rewarding as probably being a doctor, engineer, or lawyer, right? Another thing which Puru mentioned just right, parents don't know what would happen 3 years, what is actual pathway. For myself, when my daughter was in 4th standard, she used to go badminton academy, and she regularly went 3 years. But I have no idea how much progress she has made. Is she even interested? Is she enjoying, or is there any career in sports? Right. So these questions were pinching from a long time. I have been not on Guru's level, but I have been playing amateur sports, tennis, badminton, cricket, football. So we thought to make as Puru mentioned, on a ground level, we thought digitally probably create that structured environment, create career pathways. If someone has a question, right, how do you become a doctor in India? You probably have answers, right? But how do you become a tennis player in India? You probably don't have answers. You don't know how much financials are involved. So there are games like shootings, right? You get into it and then suddenly you realize that you can't even afford, right? Yeah.
It's very expensive.
So our platform is like to get the whole players community on the platform where they can get visibility they deserve. They can get the pathways, right? They should know that being a tennis player is a 5-stage thing. Each stage, this is the financial cost, this is the competition, this is the people you should talk to, these are the academies you should go to, these are the player on your level, and where do you stand against them, and probably provide that regular feedback for the parents, for the player, and for everyone. Another thing is players, as we were mentioning, if they are not making to the top, do they have career options? Can corporates hire them? Players are generally very good. They are very good team players. They do have leadership skills, and a lot of private sector might need people like them, but there is no platform. So government is hiring in railways or armies, but except that, if you don't crack that, you are actually on the mercy of nature, right?
What about you? What would
Yeah,
you
so
start?
I'm building an AI platform which lets you interact with the live stream. So in the worldwide, 1.4 billion people watch live streams of sports. Not only football, cricket,
All.
NBA, all sports.
Yeah.
So we're trying to build something where the viewers also get rewarded for watching those streams. Like they can play along, who's going to score the next point, who's going to score the next goal. So the questions come in AI and you answer along. And
Wow. So at this point, we turn the tables a little bit, and all of you can ask me any question that you want. So anybody has questions, please ask. Yeah.
I just wanted to say something that's like I had this in mind before we started the podcast also. So actually I knew a guy called Subhash Tirki. So I saw him in Rautland and he was super good. Like he used to hit these sixes out of the stadium. And when he was playing football also, he was like scoring unbelievable. He was hitting the Ranji bowlers out.
Wow.
He was dribbling everyone. Then I asked him, "What do you want?" He said, "I want a sports quota job." So, and he joined army or somewhere like. So I think we should spot the talent and
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's very
in
important.
smaller cities, like there are people who actually play sports rigorously from morning, like from 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, he would get up and run for 2 hours and practice just to get a job. So You should.
Like they've shown in the MS Dhoni movie.
Yeah, so
when he was part of
we should
the railway station,
listen to this.
and he wanted to quit. His dad was against it. It's you're settled.
Yes, yes.
So not everyone has that belief that I can actually make it big more than the government would. And this is still happening. This is
And
still
when I asked him, you can play IPL, he said, what if I get bowled for zero? I may be out. So here I have.
no other security.
Every family in India has a story about how they had a cousin or a
Yes.
brother who was good at cricket and then they had to leave because of some or the other reasons.
So, any questions on this table, guys?
So how, just continuing on his question, how private sector or corporates can help more developing the sports players or the sports ecosystem?
So I can't answer for all of the private sector, but I think it's again, trying to understand. I think some of the points you made, and I agree with that. That if you really played sports seriously, when I say seriously, at least college level, up until college level, you do learn a lot about being a team player, leadership, which can't be taught, but which are extremely important in the workplace. So I think if corporates understand that and look beyond IIT degrees and and the typical sort of degrees that we sort of value, then there will be a lot more participation, is what I feel. But again, it's there's such a high need for educating people. And whatever the resistance is, I think that's also important. If, let's say, you're an evangelist for sports, any sport, and you want to sort of convince somebody to come to your side, you'll have to figure out what is their resistance, and then try and address that resistance, really. And I think that will help significantly.
Is the money in the sector ready to, invest in educating, which is like a longer path in trying to build something? Or will it just follow numbers? Like how big is the market? How big is it?
So different people have different motivations, right? I think if you're talking to investors, our only job is to make returns, right? That is literally the only job I have. So if you're talking to an investor, that's the lens the investor will look at it. But to his question about a corporate where there may be certain sort of leeway to extend yourself beyond, let's say, profits, assuming it's a profit-making company. So again, it's a question of as to why have they stayed out? What is their resistance? But the problem is, of course, that if you're dealing with any entity that has to focus on profits, has to focus on returns, that will be the first priority. But if you take the US as an example, the most capitalist country or society in the world, but they've been able to overcome that part to get to the other side, in a very significant way. So I think it's about being able to see value, both monetary and non-monetary. Somebody has to showcase that.
So you just taking a cue that somebody needs to showcase. So we are a nation where the large number of amateurs playing very, very seriously. But when we go to any investor, so I think they see any sporting startup with the same eye as they probably see a tech startup. But I think in sports, the waiting game is slightly longer. And
no, see, I'll tell you what the difference is. So, we've seen a lot of sports startup. Now, for an investor like us, we do early stage. Now, in early stage, there's only one formula no matter what you're building, which is you have a very narrow focus when you start. So, narrow focus would mean either you're building just on coaching, but that's a slightly more services based as opposed to a product based. But let's say you're making cricket bats, for example. That's the only product. You have to stay focused on that till you've got MVP and product market fit. Then you'll attract an investor. It's not about a longer... in fact, I don't agree that sports is a longer gestation period. The issue is that when people come from non-business or non-startup backgrounds, they don't understand that what works for an investor, which is different from what kind of business you want to build. These are two separate things. So an investor will want that, is there some clarity? Because see, you will get only a certain amount of money. That money has to take you to some point. And that point could be product market fit, right? Now, if you say, I've got 4 verticals or 5 verticals, and you may need to do those verticals or you should do those verticals eventually. But it's a question of where are you starting from? That's the difference.
So one question that I had, and it might be true for other sectors, but you can see across this table, right? A lot of us have started because it was a personal calling. It was something that possibly was a problem that we are trying to solve for ourselves. I'm not sure whether that might also be applicable for, let's say, a tech startup, so on and so forth. I'm not, qualified to comment on that. But do you think this, personal calling and hence possibly doubling down on it is an advantage, or do you believe that being a little dispassionate and dissociated with that actually helps in the long
It's a
run?
good question, I must say. I don't have an absolute black and white answer to it, but if I were to, just give my opinion on it as opposed to having a, perfect answer to it, look, I think it doesn't matter. To some extent, it doesn't matter where you start from. Of course, it matters that you believe in it because when the going is really, really tough, you'll stay motivated. But because if that was not your motivation, it's easy to let go and say, oh, forget it, I'll do something else. Because, everybody on this table and most people who do start up have other skills, other experience under their belt. So you can always go back to doing what you were doing earlier, right? But I think what matters is that you understand that it's going to be a long and hard journey. I think that's the only thing. And again, I think the advantage everybody on this table has is that if you play sports, sports are hard. And that is what makes it challenging and interesting also, right? You're challenging yourself and you're competing against others, but you're also using your body's limitations or your mind's limitation to do better every day, right? Which is really what a startup is. I mean, you have to overcome your limitations and try and do better and better every day. Like your peak performance is always the next day. I mean, I don't think any sportsman can say that today was the best ever, right? Yeah. You always know that you could do better tomorrow or you want to do better tomorrow. So I think that's what a startup founder is. So that's the simile.
No, so I think I got a great analogy in my mind. In sports, you actually lose more often than you win. At least to a certain threshold, right?
Absolutely.
I think
So
that's what
you understand failure that much more, right? Because today, I mean, maybe the wind you got, headwinds as opposed to tailwinds, depending on what sport you're playing. Could be very muggy and humid, but you still got to run those 20 kilometers or whatever, like whatever sport you are in. You are failing a lot and you're always thinking tomorrow I will do better. You also, you have to self-reflect a lot as sportsman, right? Of course, if you're lucky to have a good coach, the coach helps you. But mostly it's a lonely journey again as a sportsman. You have to keep thinking, what else can I do differently tomorrow? Where did I go wrong today? So yeah, that's pretty much. So you guys you're in the right place in that sense, is what I would say. Any other question?
As a VC, Archana, what is your outlook on the sectors in the sports and wellness sector, and where will you bet your money on?
So I'm quite bullish on it. I do see the winds of change. I mean, definitely the middle class is spending money. They are sending their children. They are trying to, like what I was saying earlier. Earlier things like little leagues, football little leagues didn't exist, and parents do show up. They will take their children for these little leagues. So I think there is a shift. But I think when you come to that 30 to maybe 50 age group bracket, they're more towards wellness and then towards sports. I would say wellness and some amount of fitness. I mean, everybody will go to a gym or at least would have been to a gym. But what I saw in the US with my older colleagues was they were still playing, like ice hockey is so hard on your body, but they would play it every weekend. I mean, you don't see that kind of, sports enthusiasm in that age group. Where now you have more money, you can spend on nutrition, you can spend on minimizing injuries, you can get a good coach. So it's either golf, if you have the money and you think corporate careers are built on golf, or it's wellness more. So I think we need to see more people in that, or it's more solo sports like running or cycling, which is I think become
But if we divide the industry in like an education sector, a service sector, or equipment sector, so where will you,
always product.
always product?
Always product. I mean, services are hard.
Yeah.
Very few people have been able to crack it. Then you have got to have tech. I mean, then it's a tech sort of play. It's not only a service play. So
You mean if someone can club service and tech, then it can be the
I mean, urban company is a good example of that, right? But how many urban companies, or kind of urban companies are there? It's because it's very hard to scale services.
I think it's service tech and it has to be SOP driven.
It has to be.
SOP driven. Even
No, of course. I mean, how it's executed is a separate issue. See, I mean, quick commerce is also highly driven by execution, right? Of course, technology is the core of it, but execution is a big part of it, right? So, in India, all businesses require great execution. But just services is not a scalable model, at least for VCs. I mean, it may still be a big company, I think startups, especially the sports space, should be so high energy that it attracts more. I mean, of course, you attract already the converted, but you want to attract the new ones who may have had some barrier to trying it, or looked at it from a distance. But the energy of that startup should attract more people. But on that note, I'll have to close this table, and I want to thank all of you for coming and joining me at the startup table with AJ. It was a very energetic conversation. I think we all talked a lot, but great. Thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you.